Dr. Nathan Mitchell stood at the Quantum Observatory's main console, his eyes fixed on the anomalous readings that had kept him awake for the past 3 nights. The facility, nestled in the Rocky Mountains, was normally a quiet place where breakthrough physics discoveries happened at a glacial pace. But tonight was different. "These patterns can't be natural," he muttered, running another analysis on the quantum fluctuations that seemed to defy every known law of physics. The energy signatures pulsed with an almost musical rhythm, too precise to be random, too complex to be Earth-based. A soft chime from his tablet interrupted his thoughts. Another anomaly, this time from the gravitational sensors. Nathan rushed to the window, his heart pounding as the night sky suddenly illuminated with an otherworldly blue glow. The air itself seemed to ripple like the surface of a pond, and in the clearing before the observatory, reality folded in on itself. The being that emerged from the distortion moved with liquid grace. Tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer with its own internal light, she was unmistakably alien. But it was her eyes that caught Nathan's attention, deep violet orbs that held both ancient wisdom and unmistakable humanity. Nathan's security training told him to trigger the alarm, to call in the military that surely monitored this facility. Instead, he found himself walking to the observatory's entrance, drawn by an inexplicable sense of familiarity. The alien visitor waited patiently as he approached. Up close, her features were both ethereal and striking, high cheekbones, silvery hair that moved in an unfelt breeze, and those haunting eyes that seemed to peer into his soul. "Dr. Nathan Mitchell," she spoke, her voice carrying both warmth and authority. "I am Lyra of the Astrani. And I bring news that will change both our worlds." Nathan's scientific mind raced with questions, but before he could voice any of them, Lyra continued, "5 years ago, you participated in a classified research project involving quantum genetics. Project Starbirth." He felt the blood drain from his face. Project Starbirth had been his life's work before it was suddenly shut down without explanation. The project had aimed to understand how quantum entanglement might influence genetic expression, research that could have revolutionized medicine. "How do you know about that?" he managed to ask. Lyra's expression softened, a mix of emotions playing across her otherworldly features. "Because," she said, her voice quivering slightly, "you're the father of my daughter." Nathan's world tilted on its axis. "That's impossible," he whispered, but even as he spoke the words, his mind was already racing through the implications. The project's sudden termination. The odd energy signatures they detected during their experiments. The strange dreams that had haunted him for years. "The quantum resonance patterns you detected," Lyra explained, gesturing to the observatory behind him, "they're for my daughter, our daughter, trying to reach across space to find you. Her abilities are unprecedented." As if in response to Lyra's words, the air around them began to shimmer with tiny points of light, like stars being born in the space between them. Nathan reached out, watching in amazement as the lights danced around his fingers, responding to his presence. "Her name is Aurora," Lyra said softly. "And she needs both of us now. Our peoples have long watched humanity, waiting for the right moment to make contact. We never imagined it would happen like this, through a child who bridges both our worlds." Nathan's scientific skepticism warred with the undeniable evidence before his eyes, and with something deeper, an emotional resonance he couldn't explain. "Why now? Why tell me this?" Lyra's expression grew grave. "Because both our worlds face a threat we can only overcome together. And Aurora may be the key to our survival. But first, you need to understand how this all began, and what your research really achieved." As the night deepened around them, Nathan listened as Lyra revealed the true scope of Project Starbirth, and how a quantum genetics experiment had unknowingly reached across the stars to create something unprecedented in the history of both their species. With each revelation, the boundaries between what he thought he knew and what was possible shifted, opening his mind to possibilities he had never imagined. And somewhere out there among the stars, their daughter waited, a bridge between two worlds, carrying within her the potential to either unite their civilizations or become the catalyst for an interstellar conflict that would change the fate of both species forever. The Quantum Observatory's secure conference room felt too small for the weight of the revelations it now contained. Nathan sat across from Lyra, his hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold, as holographic displays danced between them showing genetic sequences he'd never seen before. "When we detected your quantum experiments 5 years ago, we recognized the potential immediately," Lyra explained, manipulating the holographic strands with graceful gestures. "Your work on quantum-influenced genetic expression perfectly aligned with our own research into evolutionary acceleration." Nathan watched as the double helix structures twisted and merged in the air between them, human DNA interweaving with alien patterns in ways that should have been impossible. But how? The genetic barriers between species from different planets are only barriers if you think in traditional terms, Lyra finished. Your breakthrough was seeing how quantum entanglement could influence genetic expression. What you didn't know was that you created a bridge, a quantum tunnel that reached across space itself. The implications staggered him. The unexplained energy surges during our final experiments were the moment of conception, Lyra confirmed. Aurora was born of science and starlight, carrying within her the genetic heritage of both our species, enhanced by quantum mechanics in ways we're still trying to understand. A new hologram appeared, a young girl, perhaps 4 years old by human standards. Her features were a haunting blend of human and Astrani characteristics, Nathan's dark curly hair but with Lyra's silvery highlights, skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light, and eyes that shifted between his deep brown and Lyra's violet. "Aurora. She's beautiful," Nathan whispered, reaching out instinctively before remembering it was just a hologram. "But why keep this secret for so long? Why now?" Lyra's expression darkened. "Because she's not the only one. Your project created a template, a proof of concept. And others have been watching, others who see the potential for weapons instead of bridges between worlds." A series of classified reports materialized in the air. Nathan's eyes widened as he recognized the letterhead of various Earth governments and military organizations. They knew. Some did. Just as some among my people knew. There are factions in both our civilizations who believe that such hybridization is an abomination, while others see it as an opportunity to create living weapons. Lyra's voice carried centuries of weariness. Aurora's abilities are extraordinary. She can manipulate quantum fields instinctively, bridge vast distances with a thought, and her mind operates on levels that our best scientists are still trying to comprehend. Nathan felt a chill run down his spine as he remembered the strange dreams he'd had over the years, dreams of stars singing and reality bending like light through crystal. "She's been trying to reach me, hasn't she? Through quantum entanglement?" "Yes," Lyra smiled softly. "Your genetic connection gives her a pathway. She's been searching for you since she was born, though she didn't understand why at first. But now she's growing stronger, and those who would exploit her abilities are growing bolder." The holographic displays shifted to show satellite images of secret facilities, both on Earth and on distant worlds. Multiple groups are trying to replicate Project Starbirth's success. Some have already begun experiments of their own, without care for the consequences or the lives they endanger. Nathan's mind raced with the implications. "The quantum fluctuations I've been detecting are echoes of their attempts," Lyra confirmed. "But they don't understand the full picture. The success of Aurora's creation wasn't just about the science, it was about the specific quantum resonance between you and me, a 1 in a trillion alignment that allowed for stable hybridization." She stood, her form seeming to shimmer in the dim light of the conference room. "Nathan, I didn't just come here to tell you about your daughter. I came because we need your help. Aurora's abilities are still growing, and she needs guidance from both her human and Astrani heritage to control them safely. But more than that, we need to stop those who would abuse this knowledge before they create something that could destroy both our worlds. Nathan looked again at the hologram of Aurora, seeing in her face the future of both their species, a future that could lead to either unprecedented cooperation or devastating conflict. His life's work had created something miraculous, but it had also opened a Pandora's box of possibilities that could no longer be closed. "What do you need me to do?" he asked, already knowing that his life would never be the same after this night. Lyra's eyes met his, and in them he saw the same determination that had driven him to push the boundaries of science. "First, we need to get to Aurora. She's hidden on a sanctuary world, protected by my people, but she needs both of us now. Then, together, we need to find a way to show both our species that this connection between us isn't a threat to be feared or a weapon to be exploited, but a gateway to possibilities neither of us could achieve alone." As if in response to her words, the quantum sensors in the observatory began to sing with new energy signatures. Aurora was reaching out again, her power growing stronger, calling to both her parents across the vast distances of space. And in that moment, Nathan knew that his real work, his most important work, was just beginning. The Astrani vessel, Starweaver, sliced through hyperspace like a silver arrow, its quantum drives humming with power that made Nathan's teeth tingle. After a hasty departure from Earth, just ahead of military forces that had detected Lyra's arrival, they were now racing across the galaxy to reach Aurora before others could find her. Standing on the ship's observation deck, Nathan watched the twisted reality of hyperspace flow past like liquid starlight. The past 48 hours felt like a dream, yet the data tablet in his hands contained irrefutable proof of everything Lyra had told him. He was reviewing Project Starbirth's original data, now overlaid with Astrani insights that transformed his understanding of his own work. "The quantum resonance patterns are strengthening," Lyra announced as she entered the deck, her movements as fluid as ever. "Aurora knows we're coming. She's excited." Nathan looked up from his tablet. "Can you feel her emotions across this distance?" "Not exactly," Lyra smiled, touching a crystalline control panel that caused a holographic display to materialize. "But quantum entanglement doesn't care about physical distance. The bonds between parent and child, in our case, are literally woven into the fabric of spacetime." The display showed a complex web of quantum connections, with a bright point of light at its center pulsing like a heartbeat. Aurora. Around her, smaller nodes of light represented various facilities where others were attempting to replicate Project Starbirth's success. 3 more unauthorized attempts in the past day alone, Lyra noted grimly. "The secret is spreading faster than we can contain it." Before Nathan could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The holographic display flickered and shifted, showing multiple vessels emerging from hyperspace around them. "Military ships," Lyra's voice was tight with tension. "Both human and Astrani." Nathan's heart sank as he recognized the profile of an Earth Alliance warship. "How did they find us so quickly?" "They've been watching for these quantum signatures." Lyra's hands danced over the controls. "Everyone knows something unprecedented is happening. The growing quantum disturbances across space can no longer be hidden." The ship's communication system crackled to life with multiple demands for their surrender, some in English, others in the musical tones of the Astrani language. Lyra responded by accelerating the Starweaver, its quantum drives pushing even harder against the boundaries of physics. "They can't catch us," she assured Nathan, though her expression remained concerned. This ship was designed specifically for transporting those with quantum abilities. Its drives resonate with Aurora's own frequency. As if in response to her mother's words, the quantum web displayed in the hologram began to pulse more intensely. The bright point of light that represented Aurora flared, and suddenly Nathan felt something brush against his consciousness, a presence both familiar and alien, filled with curiosity and love. "She's reaching out to us," he gasped, steadying himself against a console as the sensation intensified. "I can feel her." Lyra nodded, her own expression softening. "She's growing stronger by the day." The quantum bond between us is helping her focus her abilities. The pursuing ships were falling behind, unable to match the Starweaver's sophisticated quantum drives. But Nathan barely noticed, transfixed by the mental touch of the daughter he'd never known he had. Through their connection, he caught glimpses of her thoughts, a brilliant mind grappling with concepts that bridged human and Astrani understanding, seeing patterns in the quantum foam of space that neither species had recognized before. She's not just a hybrid, he realized, his scientific mind racing to process what he was experiencing. She's a quantum consciousness, operating on multiple levels of reality simultaneously. Yes, Lyra confirmed. And that's why everyone wants to either control her or eliminate her. She represents an evolutionary leap that few are prepared to accept. The ship shuddered as they pushed deeper into unexplored space. Behind them, the pursuing vessels began to fall away, unable to maintain the intense quantum fields necessary to follow their course. But Nathan knew this was only the beginning of their challenges. "We're approaching the sanctuary world," Lyra announced after what felt like hours. "But we won't be able to stay long. Both Earth and Astrani authorities will be marshalling larger forces to find us." The holographic display shifted to show their destination, a small, pristine world orbiting a binary star system. As they descended through its atmosphere, Nathan saw scattered settlements that seemed to grow organically from the landscape, their architecture a blend of advanced technology and natural forms. "The others like her are here too, aren't they?" he asked, noting multiple points of quantum resonance across the planet's surface. The successful hybridizations that came before and after Aurora. Lyra nodded gravely. "A handful. Each unique, each struggling to understand their place in the universe. We've kept them safe here, hidden from those who would exploit or harm them. But now we need to find a way to protect them while showing both our species that this isn't something to fear," Nathan finished. "These children could be the bridge between our civilizations, but only if we can overcome generations of suspicion and fear." As the Starweaver settled onto a landing pad surrounded by ethereal spires that hummed with quantum energy, Nathan felt Aurora's presence grow stronger in his mind. She was close now, waiting to meet her father for the first time. But they would have precious little time for family reunions. The forces pursuing them would not give up easily, and the future of human-Astrani relations hung in the balance. The ship's main hatch opened, letting in air that smelled of strange, sweet flowers. And there, waiting at the bottom of the ramp, stood a small figure that glowed with her own inner light, a child of two worlds, about to meet her father for the first time. Time seemed to stop as Nathan descended the Starweaver's ramp. Aurora stood before him, her small form radiating an otherworldly glow that pulsed in sync with his heartbeat. Her eyes shifted colors like cosmic nebulae, and when she smiled, points of light danced in the air around her. "Father," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the quantum particles in the air sing. "I've been waiting so long to meet you." Nathan knelt down to her level, fighting back tears as years of unexplained dreams and distant feelings finally made sense. Aurora reached out and touched his face, and in that moment of contact, their quantum connection exploded into full bloom. He saw through her eyes, the universe as a vast web of interconnected possibilities, every atom singing its own unique song in a cosmic symphony. "She's been teaching the others," Lyra explained softly, gesturing to a group of children approaching from the sanctuary's main complex. Each one glowed with their own unique quantum signature, human and Astrani genetics blended in different ways. But before their reunion could continue, alarms began blaring throughout the sanctuary. Above them, the binary star's light was blocked by massive ships dropping out of hyperspace, dozens of them, bearing the markings of both Earth and Astrani military forces. "They followed our quantum wake," Lyra's voice was tight with concern. "Even through our advanced stealth systems." Aurora's expression remained calm, almost knowing. "They were always going to find us, Mother. That's why we called Father here. It's time for them to understand." The other hybrid children gathered around Aurora, their combined quantum signatures creating patterns in the air that made Nathan's scientific mind reel with their complexity. He recognized some of the equations forming in the light, advanced physics that went far beyond current human or Australian understanding. "What are they doing?" he asked Lyra, watching as more complex patterns emerged. "Showing us the truth," she replied, her eyes wide with wonder. "The real reason the quantum genetics experiments worked. Why our species are compatible at all." Through his connection with Aurora, Nathan began to understand. The patterns the children were creating weren't just equations, they were a map of both human and Australian DNA, traced back through time to a common origin point billions of years ago. The quantum resonance that had allowed Project Starbirth to succeed wasn't a coincidence, it was an echo of an ancient connection between their species. "We were never truly separate," Aurora explained, her voice carrying the weight of revelation. "Both humans and Australian evolved from seeds planted by the same ancient civilization, one that understood how to encode quantum information directly into living matter. They seeded countless worlds, waiting for the day their children would evolve enough to rediscover their connection." Above them, the military ships had begun deploying smaller craft. Security forces from both species were descending toward the sanctuary, weapons ready but holding fire as the extraordinary display of quantum lights caught their attention. "The hybridization experiments worked because we were always meant to find each other again," Aurora continued, the patterns around her growing more complex. "The quantum genetics research didn't create something new, it awakened something that was sleeping in our DNA all along." Nathan's scientific mind raced with the implications. The missing link in evolution, the quantum information storage in junk DNA that we could never explain. "All of it was a message," Lyra finished, "waiting for us to become advanced enough to read it." The hybrid children raised their hands in unison, and the quantum display expanded to encompass the entire sanctuary. Every soldier and officer descending from the ships above found themselves immersed in the truth of their shared heritage, a legacy written in the stars themselves. "This is why they've been trying so hard to replicate Project Starbirth," Nathan realized. Somewhere, deep down, both our species knew there was something profoundly important about quantum genetics. We just didn't understand what we were looking for. Aurora nodded. "But some were afraid of what we might find." Fear of the unknown made them see weapons and threats where they should have seen bridges and possibilities. The first security teams had reached the ground, but they stood transfixed by the quantum display, weapons lowered as the truth of their shared origins rewrote everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. "We are not meant to be enemies," Aurora declared, her voice carrying to all present through quantum resonance. "We are not meant to fear each other or try to weaponize our connection. We are meant to remember that we were once one people, and that together, we can become something greater than either of us could be alone." Nathan watched as hardened soldiers from both species began to lower their weapons, their faces showing the same wonder he felt. The quantum patterns swirling through the air told a story that no amount of military force could deny, a story of shared origins and future possibilities that transcended their differences. But even as understanding dawned on those present, Nathan knew that this was just the beginning. There would still be those who refused to accept this truth, who would cling to fear and separation. The real work of bringing their species back together was just beginning. Aurora took his hand, her touch sending quantum ripples through his consciousness. "Will you help us, Father? Will you help us show both our peoples the way forward?" Looking at his daughter, this miraculous bridge between worlds, Nathan knew there was only one possible answer. The legacy of the stars had been awakened, and nothing would ever be the same. The sanctuary world's twin suns cast long shadows across the gathering of humans and Australian who had, only hours ago, been ready to wage war. Now they sat together in the ancient amphitheater, watching as Aurora and the other hybrid children demonstrated the true extent of their abilities, abilities that belonged not to one species or the other, but to both. Nathan stood at a podium, addressing the assembled military leaders, scientists, and diplomats who had been hastily summoned from both civilizations. Lyra stood beside him, their shoulders almost touching, united in purpose. "What we're seeing here isn't just a scientific breakthrough," Nathan explained, gesturing to the quantum holograms that Aurora was manipulating with casual grace. "It's the key to our shared future. The quantum resonance patterns we discovered in Project Starbirth weren't accidents, they were encoded instructions left by our common ancestors, waiting for us to evolve enough to understand them. The Ancient Ones seeded both our worlds," Lyra continued, her voice carrying the weight of revelation. "They left markers in our genetic code, quantum information preserved through millions of years of evolution. They knew that someday, we would reach for the stars and find each other again." Aurora stepped forward, her presence commanding attention despite her small size. The air around her shimmered with quantum possibilities as she created a detailed projection of DNA strands from both species, showing how they interconnected at the quantum level. "But why?" demanded an Earth admiral, though his voice held more wonder than skepticism now. "Why separate us only to guide us back together?" "Because separation was necessary for growth," Aurora answered, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated with something deep in everyone present. "Different environments, different challenges, different paths of evolution, all leading to unique strengths and perspectives. Apart, we developed qualities the other needed. Together, we become more than the sum of our parts." To demonstrate, she gestured to her fellow hybrid children. As one, they began to manipulate the quantum field around the amphitheater. The air itself seemed to come alive with possibility, showing glimpses of potential futures, technological advances, medical breakthroughs, solutions to problems that had plagued both species for generations. The quantum genetics research wasn't just about creating hybrids, Nathan explained, his scientific mind still marveling at the implications. It was about awakening dormant abilities that exist in all of us, abilities our ancient ancestors possessed but were forced to suppress when they seeded our worlds. Some of those abilities have begun to manifest in the general population, Lyra added, bringing up data from both human and Australian medical records. Increased intuition, unexpected quantum sensitivity, spontaneous genetic optimization, all signs that the dormant potential in our DNA is awakening. An Australian High Commander rose from her seat, her crystalline armor catching the light. "There will be those who resist this change. Fear and prejudice run deep in both our species." "Yes," Aurora acknowledged, her expression wise beyond her years. "That's why we revealed ourselves now. The awakening is happening whether we embrace it or not. We can either guide it together or let fear tear our civilizations apart." Nathan felt a surge of pride as he watched his daughter address the gathering. Through their quantum connection, he sensed her determination, her deep understanding of the responsibility they all faced. "We stand at a crossroads," he declared, looking out over the assembled leaders. "We can cling to our separation, seeing each other as threats to be contained or weapons to be controlled. Or we can embrace the legacy our ancestors left us, the knowledge that we are all part of something greater." Lyra stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "The sanctuary will remain open to all who wish to learn. The hybrid children will serve as teachers, helping both our species understand and adapt to the changes coming. But they will not be weapons, and they will not be hidden away any longer." The quantum display above them shifted, showing the vast galaxy with countless points of light representing potential worlds where their ancestors might have seeded life. Aurora manipulated the display, highlighting quantum resonance patterns that suggested other civilizations might be out there, waiting to be rediscovered. "We are not just two species finding each other again," Aurora announced, her voice filled with hope and possibility. "We are the first to remember. There are others out there, more of our star-scattered family waiting to be found. Together, we can reach them, help them remember too." The gathered leaders began to talk among themselves, the initial fear and hostility replaced by cautious optimism and growing excitement. Scientists from both species were already sharing notes, comparing observations about the quantum phenomena they'd witnessed. Nathan felt Lyra's hand slip into his, their quantum resonance harmonizing in a way he was only now beginning to understand. Aurora joined them, completing their family circle as the twin suns began to set. "This is just the beginning," she said, looking up at her parents with eyes that held the wisdom of ages. "There will be challenges ahead. Some will resist, some will try to exploit these discoveries for their own gain. But now that we remember who we are, all of us, there's no going back." As darkness fell, the quantum lights from the hybrid children filled the amphitheater with a display of cosmic beauty. It was a reminder of the vast potential that lay ahead, not just for their family, but for both civilizations and perhaps countless others across the galaxy. The boundaries between species, between past and future, between what was possible and impossible, were dissolving. In their place, a new understanding was emerging, one that promised to take humanity and the Astrani beyond anything their ancestors could have dreamed. And somewhere, in the quantum fabric of space-time itself, ancient eyes watched as their children finally began to remember who they truly were.